probably clean those up. Oh, hey, look, we're live. Awesome. Cool. Thank you for anybody who's tuning into the stream, either live or in the near future to see what all this is about. Welcome to the very first re-kickoff meeting of the Outreach Initiative. Yeah, so since it's the first one, I want to actually go through and do introductions because people coming in the near future looking to get involved in this might not know all of our faces quite yet. But I'll start. I suppose I'm Adam. I'm the committee chairperson and a developer over at LinkedIn in San Francisco. Yeah, and absolutely excited to finally see this outreach initiative get kicked off. I think we're gonna help lay a lot of groundwork for engaging new people with the Node project. But we'll go right down the list. I guess, Ahmad, you want to introduce yourself?
Well, awesome to be here. Maida, can you mute? Awesome to be here. We are actually in the same room. Maida is my better half. So that's my introduction. I'm Ahmed Wes. I'm a WordPress core contributor. I've been contributing to the WordPress core for about a decade now. And for the day job, I'm a full-time open sourcer. I do a lot of open source automation dev tooling projects and work with local community projects as a JavaScript developer. That's me.
Awesome. Maida, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I am Maida Batul, and I am one of the marketing team representatives for the WordPress official marketing team, and one of the core contributors for the core software of WordPress as well, just Ahmed mentioned. Moreover, I am a tech journalist. I write lots and lots of content. Plus, there is a community side to me. I teach girls how to code through the Girls Who Code initiative. Plus, I hold meetups for WordPress and DigitalOcean. And looking forward to work for the outreach program for the Node.js community.
Awesome. So glad to have you. And last but not least, Manil, say hi. I muted you, by the way. You can unmute yourself.
I'm going to have to get used to using the hotkeys. Hi, folks. I'm Manil. I am a developer advocate working at InVision. I'm based in Vancouver, BC. I'm involved with Adam in serving on the ComCom for Node.js. I also do other things within Node.js. Some of them are very varied and touching a lot of different things. And in my local space, I'm involved with a couple of meetups, some to do with code, some to do with open source, and most to do with hanging out and talking about tech.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we have this whole thing got launched because of issue number 4 over Node.js/Outreach. In the chat here for right now. Although I think we probably all have it open. So yeah, the Outreach Initiative started a long time ago, and I believe at last Collab Summit, there was a working session to talk about kicking it back off. And now, nearly a year later, we're finally getting underway to making this happen. So Manil, I believe you were actually in that working session at the Collab Summit. So I'm going to defer you to kind of some context there for what was talked about in a moment. But for this meeting, since it's the inaugural one, the hard word to say, I really want to focus on just getting bare bones process underway. Figuring out who's going to set up the automated meeting issue generator, and then talking about what we want our first round of deliverables to be here, because there's a whole lot of stuff we could be working on. There's a lot of ideas that have been floated around on the Node.js org. And I'm sure we all have ideas of what we'd like to see happen here. So, just getting a few of those written out and seeing what P0 for Outreach is going to be. We're getting ideas for that. But Manila, do you want to give some history? Because I don't even know what was discussed in that working group meeting last Collab Summit. So it would be good for us all to have context there.
I'm gonna. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm gonna keep the walk down history kind of short.
Everybody loves walks down memory lane, though.
Well, it's useful to have the context, I think, with initiatives like this, especially something that's been restarted after such a big gap. The reason we haven't done it this far hasn't been because of value or perceived lack of value. It has been more about the lack of bandwidth that people have been able to put in this, and I'm very, very happy that we're like getting back to it. It's a common problem in open source, and everyone needs free cycles, so the more people we get involved in, the better. And that's, I think, a good segue into why Outreach was initially first started. The idea about Outreach was we wanted to make sure that our contributors who were coming in, we were able to retain them. With open source, a lot of effort goes into onboarding people, and it is the most useful when the people who are onboarded stick around for a long time. Unfortunately, it's not an industry where people often get paid for the work. It's a very, very small fraction of people who get to do open source work full time, which is quite unfortunate considering the world runs on open source these days. But we're trying to make it better. And Outreach is a core part of that. The first part of the meeting that we had there in Berlin, this was Collaborator Summit, the Node.js Collaborator Summit, I believe last year. We just got together to see how much bandwidth people have and whether they would have capacity to do it. The general consensus was that it would get off the ground, but it would get off the ground quite slowly. And that turned out to be quite true. But also people had, obviously, personal priorities that came in the way. Or personal priorities that took precedence, and now we have the bandwidth. I'm going to drop the original issue into the meeting minutes in case y'all want to check it out. I just found it here. This was the original one, summit issue number 75. And there are meeting minutes from that. And sorry for everyone who's following on YouTube. If you are following on YouTube and you do want the meeting minutes, I think you can ping us or find us in the repo, and we can post
Also,
the same.
the last comment on issue number 75 in Node.js/Summit. If you want to navigate directly.
And then that was put on pause for a little bit until end of 2018, when we just started talking about getting it started, and that brings us to today. The last ask we had was that we wanted an explicit call for individuals who could work on this. We have yet to decide what the scope of Outreach will be, so I'm glad for the caliber of people who have showed up at this meeting, because we can begin to define what that looks like in addition to the housekeeping and process planning that Adam had mentioned earlier. And we would like to, well, the three other things, code of conduct, contributing file, MD file, and adding the project to the list of initiatives are all included in getting it started.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for pointing us to all those, Manil. Cool to see the echoes of past meetings on the Node.js Summit.
Okay.
Repo.
I just want to ask one thing.
Yeah.
I want to ask, Manil mentioned about the onboarding and the number of people who are doing open source full time. Do we have any statistics when we talk about Node.js, like any percentage, when we say like this and this percentage of developers are using Node.js? Do we have some figures around that?
Yes, we do. Unless I'm mistaken, the foundation, the Node.js Foundation, well, now OpenJS Foundation, does have figures on the usage. And I do think they keep them. I don't think we publish them anywhere, Adam. The last, I think the last.
I don't think we publish them anywhere, but I don't think it's because they're private. I think it's just because they're kind of in pitch decks that the foundation uses for enterprise customers. And so there's like, that's all public material. There's nothing saying we can't use that So yeah, we can certainly get those numbers from the Node.js Foundation marketing group. Yep. Yeah, that would be something very good to brag about on the site. Just the sheer number of people using it, because Node runs the world. Yeah.
I would like to, since we are going to, reboard this outreach initiative, I don't know, it's just me maybe, but the scope of this thing is too big to get started. And we are always going to have problems there, because if we start defining a huge scope, for me, it feels like we are starting another organization inside our, foundation. I don't know if we could reduce the scope to one single project and execute it in a better way and move off from there to something else. That would be, a better line of action for me. For example, let's say we just start focusing on making the documentation around the Node.js Foundation's repositories consistent. For example, the code of conduct document and how to get started document, the contributing document. And then from there, we could move on towards meetups and then to conferences and also.
Totally. So that's actually an exercise I wanted to go through in this meeting, since it is the very first one, is to go around round robin style and say what our thoughts and expectations are of what this group should be doing to help promote new members coming in and promote outreach and promote growth in the Node community. Yeah, and I guess I'll kick it off, and we'll go down the same list as we did introductions, because I think level setting there to like make sure we're all on the same page about what this group is actually going to execute on is important. So when I first got excited about this as a new initiative, it was really in the context of what it can do for meetups and providing content to folks who would like to start local communities. So it's in my mind, it's the ComCom's job to make sure the door is open for anybody who wants to get involved with the Node project. And oftentimes, you can attend these meetings, you can engage with the repos, but half of the fun of being part of the JavaScript community is the community. And if there's nothing local in your area, but you would like to go to meetups, you would like to do code and learns, you'd like to run workshops or attend workshops, ensuring that the resources are present there to start up your own local community chapters is important, and something that the Node ecosystem has succeeded in despite itself, I believe. So there's a number of organizations that have popped up to run meetups and ensure that people are connected and have the resources, but the main Node project has not done much to connect folks to those existing meetups, help with discovery of meetups, or help new ones pop up. So I'd love to see us do more in that respect. So that's where a lot of my interest is.
So one question here. Do we have a meetup.com account for Node.js Foundation?
I don't believe we do. Manil, are you aware of one?
We don't have an official meetup.com for the Node.js organization. What meetups do we have? We do mention a couple of meetups on nodejs.org. The meetups that have been submitted and have agreed to follow a certain code of conduct.
I think I did the same thing with WordPress Foundation. I actually, Maida and I, we run the 7th largest WordPress meetup group throughout the world here in Lahore.
Awesome.
And it has like 4,000 members or something. The WordPress organization has this whole meetup.com account. They have some sort of, workflow around with the folks who run meetup.com. And what happens is there's a simple procedure to request group in a particular city or a town. And once they do that, what we do is we create a new meetup group for them, and then they go about and run those meetup groups with sort of small leadership, local leadership. I think I've done similar things back in 2017 with DigitalOcean. I think we have grown to that meetup org or whatever you now call to about 77 meetups throughout the world for DigitalOcean. So if we can, maybe do something similar with Node.js, that would be more consistent and more in line with what we want to do, but it would end up costing the foundation something. I don't know. I'm not sure about the finances, how that works between the WordPress Foundation and the meetups.com or DigitalOcean and meetups.com.
Yeah. As far as finances go in requesting money, when we've requested it, I don't think we've ever had something turned down so far. So, as long as it's a well-scoped proposal and it's, something that, that's not outlandishly expensive, we can certainly request if we need funds for it, and see if that's tenable.
I think if we can move towards this, particular meetups model, or just like you suggested, or I think Tierney suggested, a meetup in a box concept. It's similar to that, but having this kind of a consistent meetups workflow, we can influence people to do meetups or global watching events for bigger events in the Node.js Foundation. For example, we just merged with the OpenJS Foundation, and if we could notify for such stuff to our meetup leaders, or whatever you want to call it, meetup champions, they would be able to do it one single meetup on a single day throughout the world. For example, Maida helped start translation days for WordPress. Maida, can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was just about to add a few more details to what Ahmed and Manil said. We can provide incentives to people around these meetups, like in the form of contributor days, like translation, which Ahmed has just mentioned, plus hackathons, conferences, workshops. So these are things which we can grow simultaneously around our meetup structure. In short, what I try to say here is we want to provide more and more incentives to the people just to gel in with the Node.js community. And what Panil said, the onboarding, to increase that onboarding process, to nurture that culture here about people doing more and more stuff with Node.js. And coming up with such small initiatives like meetups and contributing to open source. So I believe this is how we can provide a platform to users. But again, setting up a like meetup group on meetup.com would be a good idea, like we've done for, like Ahmed mentioned, for DigitalOcean and WordPress.com. So I'd love to hear your feedback on this.
Awesome. I love it. So for the meetup.com, groups, what's the process that people get added to a group like this? Like, does it have to be managed by the Node account or by the parent account, or do people just kind of like create a local meetup and say, hey, include me on your list?
So both of these workflows work. What happens is there's a form at, for example, DigitalOcean or WordPress, whoever manages it, you apply for that. You show that you have sort of a local community and there's no other meetup running there. And then, someone in the Node.js Outreach champion would, verify that. And then we would either invite their already existing meetup group on meetup.com inside of the, supposedly a Node.js Foundation meetup group on Meetup, or we will create a new one and add them as a leader. So I think both of these work. Since meetup.com is I think paid about $5 per month or something. If you do go about it as an individual, I don't know what kind of deals the organizations like DigitalOcean or WordPress have with them. But once we bring that meetup, for example, with Lahore meetup, what happened was someone local started a meetup group, and then they invited me to speak. And then they were having troubles finding venue and finding things around, the WordPress community. So I ended up suggesting that to the foundation, and we ended up building a workflow around it. So they brought that meetup group inside the WordPress Foundation. And now I think that person has moved on to Drupal for like 7 years. But that meetup group is running. I think we have change of leadership for more than 10 times. So if that would have been a meetup run by that person, it would have stopped back 7 years ago because it's a paid thing. But now it's going in like 7 biggest meetup in the world. So having that meetup inside of our one single foundation that is paying for that actually ends up, being a beneficial thing for that foundation, because we can always find someone from the meetup members to, make them a leader when someone is leaving or, retiring for a particular community. So that is how basically, the basic workflow works. But with that said, we are still not against any kind of meetups that are happening on, Facebook or in any other form. So it's just one form of meetup, which is more recognized. If you are open to doing events on Facebook, that's okay too. It's just hard to manage things on Facebook.
Yeah, it very much is. I'm trying to wrestle through that right now for a contracting gig I got. And it is very hard to manage events on Facebook, especially if you have these larger groups.
I'm +1 on not managing events on Facebook because I think it forces our people who want to attend to create an account on the platform they might not necessarily be in support of or want to use. So yeah, definitely owning our own space, either through Meetup or something else works for me. My question is around the meetup.pro accounts that we seem to need to manage this. It's not, my question isn't about the cost, it's more about how people tend to perceive these groups, because I have seen several Meetup Pro events, and my perception of this, my personal perception, of course, is that it's organized by a company, and when it's basically there to promote just their product, and it's not really agnostic around technology. And again, my perception of the Node.js community is that people like being able to talk about the tech outside of the sphere of, well, this is the top-down kind of what we can talk about, or this is a top-down theme that's being set. I'm wondering how you balance that when you have a meetup that's organized by a central authority versus by the community itself.
I think there are both pros and cons to this, but if we don't decide to any single thing, then there will not be any form of consistency. But since Node.js is not just about Node.js, we could easily have individual meetups in the same area. For example, in New York City, we could have a React.js meetup, which is actually listed in the Node.js meetups right now. It's around the topic of React.js, but it comes under the hood of Node.js as well. By supporting these meetups and making them part of a bigger body, a single whole compact Node.js meetups body, what we could enforce is sort of consistent workflows around, for example, if you do a meetup and there's sort of a recording for it or whatnot, we could build some sort of infrastructure inside of Node.js Foundation to get that content and get that content listed on top of that website. Right now, without having them inside of a single meetup body, we can't really go about doing that. And then there are more features that meetups.com, I think, offers. For example, you can easily send a single email to all of the meetup leaders throughout the world and ask them to do a meetup around a single topic, just like Mala told you about. We did a translation day for WordPress, and from zero to basically we got to translate the whole WordPress code base in Urdu in a single meetup. And that was a huge amount of ROI. And then we the next year, what we did was we invited all of over the community throughout the world to do a translation day together. And we ended up increasing the WordPress code-based translation to 77 languages from 34. Awesome. So that benefit basically outweighs any kind of mindset what would say that meetup.com brings. Because, and we have a huge example of WordPress. The meetups group, as you can see there are like 99 countries and 700 plus meetup groups inside of WordPress space. And WordPress is quite restricted. There you won't find like PHP or Laravel meetups in WordPress, but we can easily do that and be more lenient that way, that you can do any sort of JavaScript meetup that is relevant to Node.js inside of Node.js Foundation. We are just going to support you with maybe the meetups.com cost and sort of content workflow. There will be guides around it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'd like to really communicate well what the intent of having the extra layer of like Node.js committee involvement is here. Like, we're not trying to wrest control away from any meetup owner or agenda setting or what they want the focus of their meetup to be. I want it to be like the point of getting engaged with the larger community and with this meetup group would be to make use of amplification, like where our group is an amplifier. We get the word out with connective tissue. We make sure that stuff is more discoverable, as opposed to just randomly Googling around trying to find local meetups. And it's also kind of you've adopted a code of conduct that matches. You're connected with resources to help make meetups successful. You're connected to a larger organization if you have questions on how to properly run a meetup. So you have this kind of somewhat quality, I don't want to say guarantee, but quality assurance in some way to make sure you're going to something that's well established, or if you're starting something new, you can make sure you can get up and running in a sustainable way. I think in addition to providing the meetup.com costs or covering those costs, the foundation also has resources for providing swag to meetup runners, I believe. I think I heard the marketing team talk about that a while back. So like if you run a meetup, you can go and request a swag package and have stickers and to give out at your meetups.
Exactly.
So we can help connect with those too.
Plus, I think that with meetup.com, we can provide a go-to place for all the developers about Node.js meetups. I'm not sure we have one such platform right now. Like, people don't really know where they could go and find the meetups and conferences about Node.js. So I believe that meetup.com, if we get the group set up, that would be a great idea. It's like setting up the most go-to resource for meetups and all the community engagement.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to see about cost and if we can get that budget item actually defined for this. What is the cost framework for this again? It's $5 per group.
I have no idea how it works, because if you folks reach out to the meetups.com as a reach out from the Node.js Foundation, I believe they would have some sort of a custom enterprise package, something like this, because DigitalOcean has similar deal with them, I believe. But what I'm excited about is that if we can get one person at a meetup excited about Node.js, we can start supporting them through different things. For example, with WordPress and with even DigitalOcean, what we did was, I know that there are huge conferences out there with huge companies and corporations trying to get a huge amount of value out of it. And the cost of ticket is something that no student can ever, achieve. And there are ticket donations and whatnot. But the amount of students that actually get into these conferences through that door are less than 10% or less than 5%. So what we did with DigitalOcean and with WordPress was that you will do 11 meetups in a year, and the 12th meetup would be a bit bigger. We will provide sort of support around it. There are champions inside of the WordPress Foundation who help with that arranging your 12th meetup, sort of an online conference, and we try to keep the ticket value less than $30, mostly to $10. So anyone can basically be there. And Maida and I, we did back in 2014. There were like 744 attendees, and most of them were like only students. And it was a huge open source, sort of a meetup conference or whatever you want to call it. So we can, probably do that same thing here with Node.js if we, want to go through that.
Also, I believe a mindset prevails, especially here in Pakistan among the local community, about the thing called being official. Like conducting meetups under the official Node.js banner would be encouraging students to tell them, oh, we went to the Node.js meetup, like they say for DigitalOcean and WordPress here. So I believe this mindset do prevail if they attend some official meetup rather than some custom generated meetup or so. So I believe that backing of Node.js is pretty much important if we get that support from them.
Totally.
I love this. Oh, I was
I
just going
think
to say I love this extra perspective on how different meetups are perceived based on who organizes them in different parts of the world. I think the strategy that we're doing needs to take into account all these variances, and one strategy will not work across the world. And this is what I think I'm learning now.
exactly. But I think I'll just add on top of what Maida said. It's easier to do meetups around the world, I think, for example, in the US or in the Europe, but in Asia, specifically in Asia, if you ask a couple of friends to, let's go and talk about Node.js, you'll always end up talking about something else. So what helps is that is why there's a sort of a clear intent when someone tells you that, yeah, I'm doing this thing. People generally, try to ignore whatever they're doing. But when they kind of say that this is an official meetup, what they perceive is that there is sort of an official workflow, official backing. So it won't just be a fun thing where we will end up wasting time, but it will be something guided by a huge organization where we will end up learning something and actually meeting people who are there to learn something instead of dating or whatnot.
Interesting. That's very cool to hear about. Awesome. So we've kind of iterated on the meetup idea for a little bit, which which we can totally keep doing. But it kind of branched off from my saying like what my brain went to when I first started thinking about what this group could accomplish. And like this is a huge space, and like there's a lot to do in it. It's not being done anywhere yet in the Node organization. So I think there's definitely a need here, but I want to make sure that you three didn't have some other idea of what this group could be working on, other than just like focusing on meetup organization and meetup in a box, promotion of meetups across the world. Like, is there anything else that we'd like to see either from this working group or from another one that maybe should spin up on the side, or like what?
Yeah, I'd like
what
to
else did you
add
have in
one
mind?
thing. Other than meetups, we can figure stuff around content marketing strategy. We can craft a content marketing strategy where we can engage people to write promotional content. Apart from that, the open source contribution part, like I've mentioned you earlier as well, Adam, while I was talking to you, that I believe that three components in my opinion, should be a part of this outreach program. One is definitely the meetup part. Second is the content, and third is the open source contribution. So if we can, like Ahmed said, it's a huge scope, and if we can just break down this project into these three components and work accordingly, I guess that sounds like a great marketing idea to spread the word about Node.js to the outer world. And if you have any other things to share with me, which we can add to it, that would be great.
Can you dive a little bit more into what you mean by the open source contribution part of it? I think I understand the content.
Open source. Yeah, open source contribution would be like hackathons, probably. Like Ahmed mentioned, we did a translation day where we can engage a community on some particular set date, on some particular set time, and encouraging people to contribute, just like the Hacktoberfest concept by the DigitalOcean thing. So it's the whole month where people contribute to open source. So we can come up with similar idea for the Node.js community as well. And more to it would be like what else? I'm just thinking on top of my head for more ideas.
I think I would like to add something here. For example, if we were, which I think we missed the chance for this year, but if we could, delay this part of the outreach program for the Google Summer of Code thingy for next year, we could, for example, I would very much like to build a CLI, which could be the go-to CLI for anything related to community, for any new repository that is built up inside of the Node.js Foundation. For example, when you create a new repository, you do it with that CLI, and it takes care of your, issues and pull request templates, in your code of conduct template, in how you're going to contribute, the contributing.md, all in line with a particular mindset that is consistent throughout the Node.js Foundation repositories. So that is a huge project, but it would be fun to be very consistent in form of a node, whatever you want to call it, the outreach CLI or the community CLI, in a fun project for Google Summer of Code.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I see rumblings of these types of ideas and initiatives in the Node ecosystem. But I think this group could take the kind of proto programs that are out there right now and really turn them into something that could be, extremely successful. So like on the content side of things, we have the Node.js or we have the Node collection on Medium, where we accept community articles and publish them through the Node publication, which is an awesome program, but can certainly be scaled up and its reach extended. And we have Code and Learn, which we kind of host at sanctioned events like the summit coming up, where we get everybody in a room and kind of onboard them to the Node project, have them spin up core, pick up a good first issue. But there's work we can do to make that not a dedicated event, and instead make it something that you can go through anywhere, or you can host yourself at a meetup if you're doing a Code and Learn style meetup, or so there's a lot of improvement we can do there to kind of push the open source contribution side of things. But I do like those three components as like the three tenets of what this group can focus on.
Yeah, and just to add, I can help you with the content part. I've been writing stuff, doing similar stuff for the WordPress organization. I have been writing into surveys and case studies, so I can be helpful in that particular area. You've mentioned about the Medium team, so if you can introduce me to the people who take charge there, that would be great.
Yeah, you want to meet Rachel. She manages the Medium publication, and there's a group of editors on an email alias that help review articles. So we can certainly get you looped in there if you're interested.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you suggest? That do we only stick with the Medium part of content marketing, or can we start a blog or /Node.js/community page where we can publish articles and news about conferences and happenings? Will that sound a great idea, or what? Or are we still going with the Medium?
So I think it has to do with how many cycles we have to properly manage it. I mean, content marketing takes a lot of time and work.
Exactly.
Us being all volunteers has been fun to navigate around as we explore that. I think for keeping Medium as the kind of blogging platform for Node is probably a good idea for now, just because we don't want to have to manage a custom blog and then work to drive traffic there for regular content. But for how we make announcements and how we push traffic to, like, for instance, larger hackathon days across meetup organizations, or broadcast content, like we do have access to all of the social media accounts, so we can blast out over Twitter and stuff for if we publish on Medium. But totally open to other ideas if they'll be scalable. For sure.
I think what we are doing with Node.js.dev is actually becoming sort of a blogging engine for us. So we can use part of it to actually host that, something like nodejs.org/collections there, and then have canonical URLs posted on Medium as well. So we start owning our content, and the workflow becomes more consistent. For example, you just contribute to the GitHub, and then someone actually takes care of posting that to Medium. So right now, if there is a mistake in a Medium article, the workflow around it is, I don't know why, because I tried to search around that. And how do you end up posting one at Medium collection is also sort of a mystery until TLD helped me around. Okay, this is the post, this is the email where you should be writing. So having sort of a consistent workflow there would be helpful. in the future, not right now. It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, certainly that email submission alias for the Node.js collection has some visibility problems for how to contribute, and how to, us soliciting new content from the community is also, it has some workflow improvements.
Yeah, we can actually, that is actually, I think having meetups, the next step to it is getting content injection from those meetups to our or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, 100%. I'm so excited to start up-leveling content from local meetups and pointing at them and saying, look at this cool stuff that's happening at the local level. Like, people are awesome. People make cool stuff. You should all know about this. Like, I'm excited to see that type of content gets shared a lot more.
Maybe we end up inventing a hashtag for that.
Yeah, exactly. To track it well. Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like, Maida, I love that like three-pronged effort for meetups, content, and encouraging contribution as like a structure for this initiative. Yeah, Manil, you've been quiet. I want to invite you to like chime in. Does this align with what you were thinking this initiative would be working on, or did you have other thoughts and ideas for stuff we could be hacking away on in here?
I'm of the belief that initiatives tend to find their groove when the people in it are pursuing what they care about. And I think the proposals so far are very much in line with what people want to drive and would like put effort into. So I'm +1 on pursuing this three-pronged effort. If there is anything I can do to help, I'm willing to make cycles for it. So just let me know.
Awesome. Well, cool. Sounds like we have general consensus here then. That's nifty. So I think it sounds like also that a lot of what we want to do in the longer term is contingent on building up this meetup network. Like a lot of the content generation we want, a lot of the driving for open source contributions, like none of that happens unless we have a way to track and support and onboard meetups. So to me, at least, it sounds like that's P0 here. Like we gotta get that infrastructure in place. And before that, even, we need to get our basic day-to-day in place. So like we need to make sure that meetings are generated. We need to make flesh out the README for this repo, get a contributing.md, make sure the code of conduct's pulled in here, which I don't know, is that even in this repo right now? I need to take a look at what's actually here right now. We have a code of conduct, but an empty README. Cool. So Maida, Ahmad, could I maybe task you two with getting the kind of what we've talked about today and synthesizing it into a README that makes sense for like a kind of vision setting for this group and PR it here. I'll help get a lot of the automated tooling set up to like get the meetings all up and running and get this added to the ComCom list of initiatives, and we can start working in issues for how to really kick off this meetup tracking and like what we actually need to make this thing a success, which it sounds like you two have lots of good content ideas for how to get this thing set up. So
definitely. I think the blockers here are Maida is actually not in the Node.js GitHub Foundation right now. And if you can add both of us.
Let's fix that.
So if you can add both of us as collaborators in this particular repo, then it would be
100%.
easier and manage the pull request and everything.
Totally. Yeah, Maida, I didn't realize you weren't added as a collaborator yet. We're going to fix that right now. Yeah, I'll add that as well, so we can iterate this here. Cool. We have about 5 minutes left in the meeting. Just keep an eye on time. Any other thoughts for next steps here, or are you excited to hit the ground running?
I'd suggest looking at the Node School model as another possible option for what we might processes we might want to borrow. I do believe that they provision people who want to start Node schools. They go to the GitHub there and they ask for a repo to be created for them. And then that spins up, I think, a subdomain. Or no, I think it's more like a subdirectory on the Node School official website, which gives it a sense of, so if you say wanted to start like Node School Vancouver, then you go ask for it, they create it, and then you get a website at nodeschool.io/Vancouver, and then you could do all the admin, the GitHub in the backend. This is also more in the, like, if people were willing to live in GitHub rather than administrate it on meetup.com, and it also is not as visible as being able to search for it on meetup.com. So it might not be the process we're looking for, but it is something that we could explore as a possible federated option.
Yeah, there's also a fun problem that we're going to face here in the Node community, which I probably can't overemphasize, is that there's a lot of, in the absence of this kind of strong meetup organization from the Node community, like Node.js Foundation itself. A whole lot of the content has popped up externally to the Node Foundation and to the main Node.js repos and top level committees. And we need to make sure that as we move forward, we respect that ownership and we find ways to integrate with stuff that's already in existence and bring them into the loop without taking away that identity they've developed, while also giving them the benefits of more reach, better connectivity, and amplification from this group. So we're going to have a bit of a line to tread there as we move forward, because like people who run current Node schools and do it on the regular, we can't say, hey, no, sorry, either become a Node meetup or shut down. Like that's not going to fly, and that's not okay. So how do we bring them into the fold while celebrating and up leveling what they're already doing?
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Ahmad.
Sorry, I think Node School is more technical, but I was suggesting here with meetups is not just technical. It's Node is in lives of people who are not just developers. So there's a bigger market for having meetups around non-technical spaces as well, in involving those people. As Node School is like, okay, sort of a training or a workshop, so not meetup. So yeah, there will be some sort of a huge overlap there. And with that, we are going to be, this is, I think, what we are going to be discussing in a couple of next meetings, how we go about not asking people to shut down what they are doing, but try to, append our meetups to what they are already doing.
Yeah, and there's kind of three. I sent out a Google Doc a while back with initial thoughts about this thing, and I kind of broke up the different types of meetups I saw into three categories. One is kind of the code and learns, like go hack on Node core, become a contributor to Node proper. One is a Node school, like learn about the Node ecosystem, learn how to use it for your projects. Still technical, but not core. And then the third is the more social events with speakers and networking and socializing, which there is less infrastructure around at the moment. Those kind of more casual meetups. Node schools kind of filled the need for the learn how to use Node use case. Code and learns have not spread much outside of summits that the foundation hosts, but there's some infrastructure already in place there. But the shared infrastructure for like networking and speaker events is not in place quite yet. So we might be able to augment stuff.
I'm just going to jump in really quickly with a perspective, and then I have to hop at the top of the hour to another meeting.
Yeah, totally.
I want to share that I think this will be very effective in fulfilling that third channel that we don't have yet. And then I do think 100% we should do it and pursue it. I think we also, while doing it, need to keep in mind that we are not a corporation, we are not DigitalOcean, and we are not automatic. So there are things there are aspects that we need to keep in mind, that this is an open source language, and this is something that people have been doing at a grassroots level. And yes, we don't want to stamp on what they're doing by making this official channel and saying this is now more official than what you're doing. But we do want to empower people to say do meetups when otherwise they might not have been able to. For example, I think meetup accounts are quite expensive, and I don't think we can lean on people to provision meetups and pay for it out of pocket. So it makes sense for us to give them an opportunity to, hey, you want to run a meetup? We'll help you with the costs.
Mm-hmm.
So threading that balance, I think, is quite important. That's
yeah,
just for sure.
Actually, I would like to add here, actually, I gave 2 examples, WordPress and DigitalOcean. The WordPress example was more on the community side because there's a WordPress Foundation, and I know there is an overlap on WordPress.com, which is owned by Automatic, the co-founder of WordPress. But the WordPress Foundation actually owns the meetup groups on, on meetups.com. But DigitalOcean is a corporate, so we can easily compare how a corporate company runs their meetups on meetup.com and how a similar foundation, just like the Node.js Foundation, which is the WordPress Foundation, how they run their meetups on there. And they are very much, they have funds much less than what Node.js Foundation has, and they have been doing just fine.
Yeah. And it's very possible that like we don't know how the pricing model for Meetup works for foundations. Like it's possible that for community organizations, nonprofits like this, it'll be less expensive. Oh, bye, Manil. Thank you so much. We will see you in the ComCom meeting on Thursday. Yeah, so either way, it'll be awesome to explore. I actually have to run now too, because it's the top of the hour. But yeah, thank you everybody who joined on the stream, and I'm excited for this to get going. I'm gonna cut the stream now, but.
Okay.